I'll show that in just a moment. So then, what are you pitching? What are you inoculating these things with?
All sorts of bugs. We've got stuff that we love to mess around with. It could be like one cask that we're like, oh, let's try this mixed culture. One thing that we started getting really a whole lot into is experimenting with R&D mixed cultures from some of these smaller yeast labs. So stuff that might not even actually have a name or anything other than an ID number. So we started doing that a lot, which is a lot of fun. But primarily it's usually Brett Clausini, Brett Brooks, our Flanders mixed culture, which we get from a yeast lab in Colorado that they make a special blend for us. Some spontaneous stuff every year I work on at least 4 different spontaneous strains, and I'll take and put them throughout this building and sometimes outside, and just to see what cool yeast we can capture. We've captured a couple that are really neat, that are very fruit forward. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so these are things you've done where you just left something open.
Yep.
Left some wort open, let it start naturally fermenting with whatever's in the air, and then I think you send that off and have them kind of go through it and isolate the good stuff out of it. Is that right?
Yeah, so we actually started doing that more and more here with our own lab with Kevin. So it's awesome that a lot of the stuff that I've been working with him on, and we have some neat stuff also that is spontaneous for our distillery as well. So
wow.
Yeah, so we've got all sorts of yeast projects going on.
That is super cool though. All right, let's see what else. What do people screw up on this side?
Everything now. Oxygen's a huge character, or a huge negative, has a huge negative impact on this. You're more likely to have the barrel on top dry out, kind of like what Ron was talking about with next door with micro oxygenation. Over here, you really have that because you have to really watch your moisture level inside the room itself, and then you're pitching wild yeast and bacteria, which if it has too much oxygen, that's going to create a solvent, acetic acid character, which is like nail polish or whatever. And it's freaking awful. Or just also like really terrible flavors. So we're trying to keep everything.
Plus it's hot.
Yeah, plus it's hot
over here, which is increasing the speed of the oxidation process tremendously.
Yeah, and you're really kind of asking for it. I mean, maybe once in a blue moon I'll have a bad barrel from the cold program over here. It's normally like 10% is trash, just because it's running the risk of, it's warm and you're creating a lot of those things, a lot of those processes much quicker. So you're getting oxidation much faster. And, over here, it's, instead of being 12 months, it's more or less, it could be a year and a half to 3 years. So you're really pushing the boundaries.
These are not kettle sours.
These are not kettle sours. These are the real deal.
These are not overnight sours.
No.
These are the real deals, and you can tell it in the flavor.
Oh yeah, very complex.
Tons of complexity, really incredible beers. We haven't talked about, of course, they're on the other side as well. We always called them the Vinnie Nails. Yeah. He obviously didn't really create it for the beer industry. Yeah, for the beer industry. Which right there's one. Ta-da! Yeah. So these are in all the barrels and used in the distilling industry. I suppose wine too.
I have seen them in wine.
But I know the bourbon makers have always used nails like that to do samples out of there. Vinnie Salerzo from Russian River was one of the first people in the country working on this type of beer here in the U.S. And he started using them, and then in the beer industry they got the name Vinnie Nail. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, is that what we still call them in the beer industry?
I know a lot of people that say put a Vinnie Nail in it.
Isn't that funny? At some point they're not even going to know why they call it a Vinnie Nail. Right?
You're like, who is this person?
Yeah.
The reason is because like that barrel's actually buried, unfortunately. But so what happens is with oxidation is we're creating a byproduct that's called a pellicle. It's a byproduct of wild yeast bacteria, and it actually creates. It's really disgusting looking. It's like a cottage cheese film that basically is on top of the beer, and that actually helps protect it from harmful things from happening, essentially oxidation. But with the micro-oxidation and then just that small amount, it actually creates this like biofilm. And then that's why you have the Vinnie Nail, because then you can get underneath it and then tap the beer and it won't harm anything, and you can actually taste what the true product is.
Yeah.
But it's fun when you empty them
without
because
breaking that pellicle.
it looks like cottage cheese all over your barrels.
It's
pretty
a
gross.
funky looking thing.
Yeah.
Indeed it is.
It's pretty awesome.
All right, so let's see. Anything else on this warm side?
I've got
Crazy cool things.
We can show some tanks that we have out here. So once we take the beer from this program, and we want to fruit it, we've got fruiting tanks.
Yeah. So let's we'll take a look at that. Let me do a quick spin around here, and then I'll follow you out.
Cool.
So as you can see, this just goes way back through here. And it's crazy. This is a really full room, stocked to the gills with barrels. Coming out, you see the equipment over here. Always a good idea if you're doing things like this to identify the things used on the wild side with some sort of marker so it never gets used on the clean side of the house. This is something the wild producers have been doing for a couple decades now, at least here in the U.S. So just a good way to mark that, keep it safe, never crosses this threshold. All right.
So as you can see, we've got smaller tanks over here, some larger tanks over here, and then essentially these are all oxygen free. They clean really well, but they're fruiting tanks for sour beers. So like I was saying before in there, like these will start living in that area, and just so they're in their own isolated kind of area. But yeah, pretty much these are collaborations, different concepts that we have, fun ideas. Basically, it's new innovation for our larger scale, or scaling up sour beers that are fruited. So we have roughly about 12 to 13 of these guys over here. I've got a couple wine tainers that hold a little bit more volume. So these are about 8.5 barrels, where that's a 14 barrel. I've got another 14 barrel tank. And then these are just actually some base beers that we have that we're messing around with different oaking concepts that will be blended in with other things. And I've got 2 horizontal tanks over here that is primarily for fruiting.
You use those?
Yeah, so actually the silver one has Vinnie Nail in it for this year, which that is a sour porter with sweet cherries. That won a gold medal at GABF last year.
Wow, these are big tanks. I didn't know you were using these.
Yeah, so that's a 60 barrel. This is like a 37 to 40 barrel. I haven't actually used that guy in a while. We're thinking about getting rid of it and getting a bigger one potentially. I'd love a 90 barrel. Just because we're going to start hopefully doing cherry Busey almost year round.
Oh wow!
We're looking at that just because who doesn't love that beer?
Yeah.
I can drink it year round. I'm like, yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
It's just so awesome. But yeah, so we use these guys a lot, and also the portable tanks. So that's where you see in our tasting rooms like new weird sour beers coming out probably come from a portable tank. So yeah, this is what we do, like Patio Smasher, Cherry Busey, Midnight Choir, Velour Soccer Mom, like all that stuff goes generally through this guy.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then we have our 10 barrel unitank. So this is used for sour beers and non-sour beers. You're asking yourself, how can that be used for sour beers also? It gets a full gasket stripped down. I've got separate gaskets for everything.
I
So
see.
I strip it down, clean the hell out of it, and then it'll get used for sour beers. I mean, I change out all the valves too. Everything has its own place.
Anything that's not stainless gets changed out.
Yeah. Like we've got for clean beers, got our own carbonation stones. I've got my own carbonation stones for sour beers also. I mean, everything gets changed out. And then we also do the same thing with our filler. So this is our KR line over here. And
KR is King's Reserve.
So
I was looking for a bottle, but I'll show you one later.
There we go. Oh, no. That's it. So like caramel apple triple. So got caramel apple triple. This is right now set up for sour beers because I was messing around canning some Sixtels yesterday. But we have a sour beer line, and then we also have a specialty beer line. So the specialty beer line is actually for like caramel apple triple and sympathy for the devil, shadow proof. But yeah, basically what we do is
you swap out that whole head right there.
so this entire thing has. So you can see there's the other one.
Oh, I see.
We've got two actual
specialty,
can
and that
lines.
one's sours.
Yep. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll take it, it's a very manual process. It takes roughly about 7 to 8 hours to kill this entire tank.
Wow.
So we'll take this, purge it with CO2, and it'll move over to the filler where it'll get filled, and then hit with a, essentially it's a foamer or jetter, and then get the lid placed on it. And then this seamer is a specialized seamer. There's only like 10 in the world. And what it does is basically put a blank cap on, and the can actually has threads on it, and it molds the threads around it. So each can gets its own, cap placed on it. It molds the threads on it, and then it goes to the next person. Normally it takes about 4 to 5 people to run the line, and someone will put it into the bath, and then be running and getting more cans, while another person's taking and rinsing the cans and blowing them off, and then putting them into cases, and then another person will take and be running a labeler, and then be labeling them also.
Very manual process.
Very manual.
and not many people are using this type of can.
No. So
right here,
they're starting to pop up. Not necessarily this can, but like the same top design, which I'm wondering if it's just a different new innovative Alumitech. Like I've seen some really, really fancy wineries with the same top. So I'm wondering if there's some new aluminum. I'm sure there is like new can innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have to go into it, but
Yeah.
there's a great story best told over a beer about how this can came to be, and when Sun King started getting into these specialty beers and big beers that they wanted to age and things like that. And, the traditional way of doing that was putting it in a big bottle, cork and cage it maybe. And Sun King's always been about cans. So they sought to find a special can like this. And I think one of the big mega brewers was using it, but they were the only ones out there using it at the time. And after a great showing at GABF in the early years, Ball, I believe, who has this, was it Ball who does this? They kind of opened up and welcomed the opportunity to work with a craft brewer for this unique can as well. So that's why there's very few of these seamers out there. It's not a can very many people use, and I don't know, only a couple craft brewers in the world are using it, right?
That's correct, yeah. It's only us and Oscar Blues.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they don't even use it very much, again, only just for specialties.
They use it for their root beer.
For their root beer?
Yeah. So they're making root beer on site, and then they can their root beer.
There's a sign, love the little sign right there. Sour beers only, get the stripe, gaskets, different colors.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right, very cool. So I think last thing, we'll just keep rolling.
Oh yeah.
Show us the steamer a little bit.
Yeah, so it is currently not in use, but so it's
That's
called,
okay.
It's called a Bordeaux steam wand, and primarily it's made out of brass. And so this is a small, just electric steam boiler. And so what we'll do is it obviously converts water into steam and then runs through the steam line, and I can actually monitor the amount of pressure that's coming out. And it'll basically just take and slip through the top of a barrel like so, and we'll let it run between 2 and 4 minutes depending on what the application is, how if the barrels are wet or not. So actually these were fairly tight but dry, so they only got about 3 minutes. So basically I just wanted to add moisture to the interior of the barrel to draw out some of the spirit, and then to have that kind of re-sanitize the entire barrel and to knock down if there was anything growing on the inside, which has been a really great process. It's worked well for us. But yeah, so
So I've seen this thing in use, man. The steam just
smells so great.
the steam just cranks out
It's pretty crazy.
of that wand. It's pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool, and like for like big puncheons and stuff that we really want to like knock down the wild yeast or bacteria, I'll sometimes have it steam for like 30 or 40 minutes just to like try to kill as much stuff as possible inside, just to neutralize it.
What would someone do if they don't have a fancy schmancy steamer like this?
Hot liquor tank. Hot liquor tank's a good alternative that you already have in
So,
your brewery.
so you mean just fill it with really hot water?
Yep. Just fill it with really hot water. Maybe have it go for, once it's full, for 2 to 5 minutes, and then empty it out. Just because you don't want to strip everything out of there.
Yeah.
But it's enough to at least kind of
What
knock everything
are we
down.
talking about? Really hot?
Really hot,
Talking
like
near boiling?
160, above 160.
Okay.
Yeah. So most hot liquor tanks are like 180 to 190. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
just straight out of there and just fill
Straight
them
out
up?
there, fill them up, and then drain them.
How long would you soak? 10, 15 minutes?
I wouldn't even go that far. Maybe max 5.
Maximum 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then that will help. Also, it depends on really like the condition of the barrels that you're getting too. So if they're dry and they're falling apart, you might want to rethink where you got them.
Yeah, might want to rethink using them. Period.
Because I mean, for a clean beer, going in there and trying to keep it clean, you might have a really hard time trying to do that.
Yeah.
Now for a sour beer, maybe you can. I've resurrected some that I thought were not going to work, and then all of a sudden they gave us an incredible character. So you never know. But those, once again, were for the sour beer side, which I knew they were going to get inoculated. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, sir.
Cool.
I think that's it. We're going to
Awesome.
sign off there.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for your wisdom and your time today.
Of course. Thank you guys.
Yeah.